Yes, sir.
Did you hear that?
Yep,
James, are you okay with us using this recording of your story publicly?
absolutely.
Can you or anyone you mention face legal prosecution or get into trouble for anything you share?
No.
Fuck, sweet. The floor is yours. Introduce yourself however you want and take it
Okay.
away.
Uh, so my name is James Ingram, and I'm a Mexican American, drug addict and alcoholic for most of my life. Um, how it started, I only got 20 minutes, so we'll have to do the condensed stuff. Um, I remember my first drink. I was at a friend of a family's wedding. I was only 7, maybe almost 8 years old, and there was two different punches, one for the adults and one for the kids. And I've always had that rebellious spirit that um, drew me over to the adult punch. I remember 2 or 3 glasses in, and next thing you know, I'm in the back seat of the car. Um, my older siblings are all making fun of me and giving me all this attention and picking on me. My parents are laughing at me, and I was in love instantly. Um, I loved the feeling. I loved the attention that I was getting, um, and from then on out, I was sneaking drinks of open beers or sneaking into the kitchen closet and stealing my dad's vodka and trying to replace it with water, um, for the next 6 years or so. About 5 years. Then I started smoking pot. Um, I was the youngest of all my kids, all the kids born in 1981, April of 1981. I was what my parents like to call their greatest mistake, because I definitely was not planned. My siblings were all 6 to 10 years older than me. So I was always kind of like the third wheel being drug along places. My parents had their own company, so even though they were present, they weren't really around that much. My siblings did a lot of my raising, of the raising of me when I was a kid. So yeah, 11, 11 years old or so, I'm smoking pot. I'm sneaking booze as much as humanly possible for an 11-year-old. Um, and my older brother was like my hero. He was just everything. He never complained about dragging me along to places or anything like that. Um, so I'm 11 years old, getting ready to turn 12 in a couple of months. And me and my brother get in this huge fight. And I'm like, look, motherfucker, I wish I could just kill you. And he's like, oh, step up, little man. Take your best shot. And I was like, no, just one bullet is all it would take. And uh, the next day I woke up and went to school, and I got pulled out of school. And my dad was outside waiting for me and informed me that my brother had shot himself that night. So I I carried that weight with me for a lot of years until I started really facing myself. And so shortly after that, um, I'm over at a friend's house. We're smoking weed, we're drinking, and he busts out this light bulb, and he's like, "Man, you got to try this shit." And that was the first time I was introduced to methamphetamine. And once again, I remember it like it was yesterday. Um, I was in love all over again, uh, from the very get go. I thought I was outgoing and a personable guy on alcohol and weed and stuff, but man, this really brought me out into the public eye. I felt like I could do anything on this stuff, and so that's what I did. That became my new thing. Was trying to get in. Back then, I'm getting pretty old. Back then, it was just crank, peanut butter and lemon drop crank. So I'm getting a pretty bad habit at just the age of 13 years old. I'm stealing. I'm sneaking into my parents' bedroom at night to jack money out of their wallet or steal change out of their change jar or take stuff and try to trade it. and I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I got hooked up with a guy that started giving me some to sell. So I'm 14 years old, and I'm slinging crank out of my parents' basement window. Back then, they didn't have the convenience of buying baggies, so I'd have to steal my parents' magazines and chop them into bindles. All the old folks will remember that. But a bindle was like a little envelope that you made out of, wax covered paper, because they didn't sell baggies in stores back then. They just didn't. So yeah, here I am, 14 years old. I'm slinging crank out my parents' basement window. I'm starting to come into all this money. I'm starting to come into all this attention because I got the dope, and that's what it was all about. I never fit in. I mean, I fit in, but I fit in everywhere because I was just wearing whatever mask I needed to get that attention that I needed. But yeah, so I loved it. I loved the attention. I loved the rush. I loved everything about it. I was hooked from day one. So let's see. Let's go. Well, I should back up and mention that I started drinking at 7, and I caught my first case at 8 years old, breaking into a federal storage facility. Um, they had all kinds of stuff in there, including a bunch of gumballs, which I loaded up my camouflage army coat with gumballs and led a trail of gumballs back to my parents' house. So 2 days later, I had Davis County sheriffs, Clinton City Police, and military police at my door, and that was my first charge. Was breaking and entering and burglary of a government facility. So drunk at 7, in juvie by 8. Should have seen a sign then, but I didn't. I caught more charges. I was in state's custody by the time I was 14 years old, but got released back to my parents' care. But I was technically a ward of the state because I kept catching either possession charges or shoplifting charges or whatever. But yeah, so I'm still slinging this crank, making money. I got pagers that I'm lying to my parents about and saying, "Oh, my friend's parents bought them for us and is paying the bill." And I'm just creating all these lies and still doing all this mischievous stuff. So 16 comes around, I get popped with marijuana at Clearfield High. I get kicked out. I get sent to safe schools. I was the first year of safe schools. It was me, 4 other guys, and 2 rotating teachers with police supervision in the Planned Parenthood portables up by Mountain High. I did great in there. I excelled because it was personal attention from the teachers. So I get out of that. I did not complete probation successfully. They unsuccessfully terminated me. And my caseworker was like, "I'll see you at the prison." And I'm like, "You will." I get let back into Clearfield High, and I get pulled out of debate class, actually, because it was one of the only credits that I needed was electional or elective English, and debate counted for that. And I get pulled out by Officer Guyanchetta, and I got arrested for distribution of methamphetamine and cocaine at Clearfield High. I'm 17 years old. They wanted to charge me as an adult. So I was looking at 2 first-degree felonies and a whole handful of other charges. And so my dad, fortunately, got me an attorney. It's one time as a kid that my dad really got involved in me being in trouble. He got me an attorney. They got it kicked back down to juvenile court. Thank God. Otherwise, I'd probably just barely be getting out of prison right now. So yeah, 17, 18, more of the same. I obviously left Clearfield High, went and got my GED. So 19, the rave scene's on and popping. There we go. So,
You
yeah, I got
froze,
married and divorced real quick.
you froze for a second at the rave scene.
Oh, okay, yeah. So rave scene, and I met this girl. Got married a year later to the day. Got divorced even quicker than that. Um, so here I am. I'm stuck with this condo. I'm stuck with these two new cars, and I went right back out to what I knew best, which was the dope game. And next thing you know, there's graffiti all over the walls of my condo. It's 4 or 5 years later. I'm getting kicked out. So I'm homeless for a little bit. I lose my job at my parents' business. Um, so I finally sober up long enough to get my job back, get out of my parents' basement because they let me come back in there. And I got a little house in Roy, and I did good there for a little while too. You know, 5, 6 months maybe. Not working a program, just trying to, white knuckle that shit. Um, so like I said, 5, 6 months later, I'm into it. I'm feeling like I've made it. I've got this handled. So, a little bit's not going to hurt. One time on the weekend, I'll just get a 20 or a 40 bag and I'll be straight. I'll be good. I'll be fine to go into work on Monday. I'm like a magician. I can turn a 6 pack of beer into an 8 ball like that. Um, so um, so here I am, mid-20s, no direction in my life. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I smoke dope, and I get drunk so I can go to sleep. Um, that's about it. Um, let's see, we've been at this not too long. Okay, so 30 comes along. I reconnect with the woman of my dreams. I'm still at this house in Roy. This is the first time in my life that I really had the desire to quit using. Um, so she had some disabilities and stuff. She actually had 2 strokes and was learning how to walk and talk and chew food and stuff all over again. And her family was unable to help her, so I just moved her in with me. I tried to keep the meth and everything away from her. I openly smoked pot and drank and everything else, but I tried to keep the meth away from her because she had never been exposed to that kind of stuff before. But even with 2 strokes, she's not an idiot. Um, when somebody comes up and drops a bag of dope right in your lap when she's sitting next to you, the gig's kind of up. Plus, there's no reason to be on your roof for 2 hours at 3 a.m. That's just not shit that normal people do. So it was pretty obvious that I had a drug problem. So we're getting pretty darn serious. She has 3 beautiful children that I very much wanted to meet. And she's like, look, I cannot bring you around my children if, you're going to be using meth and stuff. And so I quit. I quit everything. I quit drinking. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit the dope. We end up getting pregnant. So here I am. I went from this swinging bachelor. Now I've got a lady. I've got 3-step kids and a baby on the way. So I went from this swinging bachelor to a family of 6. I got us a place in Ogden, right on 32nd and Ogden Avenue, actually. So I don't know if people are familiar with Ogden, but we called that place the Click because it is right in the middle of the hood. It is that is every house around ours caught bullets. It's a pretty rough little neighborhood between Ogden and Porter there. So I'm doing great, really. But still no real recovery, no support system, no therapy, none of that. I'm just white knuckling it because I've got to do it for the lady and the baby and the 3-step kids. And I did good for a year. I did really good for a year. No cigarettes, no nothing. So it's my very first Father's Day with my own biological son. And about a week before that, I let the stress of everything get to me. You know, I've got a disabled lady. I've got 4 kids now. And, you know, I'm trying to grind as hard as I could, and I just couldn't find that extra energy. And it popped into my head, hey, I know where I can get some extra energy. So I met up with one of my boys and started using again. And so it's my very first Father's Day with my actual own biological son, my first, you know, real Father's Day. And I get woken up with my wife holding my shorts. I had a stash spot in the zipper part of my shorts where I'd hidden a pipe in a bag. And she's like, you know what? I don't know why everybody always feels like they have to hide this from me and lie to me about this. She's like, I'm going to use it. And I'm like, the hell you are. That is, that's dancing with the devil. Like, you are talking about holding hands with the devil right there. I said, you are using it. And she kept talking and talking about it. And then in the back of my twisted ass addict mind, I'm like, hey, if I get her high, I can start getting high openly. Like, we can use together. It'll be great. I'm just going to ruin this beautiful woman's life with methamphetamines. And that's exactly what I did. She didn't like it the first time. And so, you know what? I was like, okay, baby, I'm going to go get some better dope. And I was just being so greedy and selfish in that moment. It's one of the worst things that I've ever done. And I've lit a person's house on fire. Because I'm not a big man, but when people did not pay up, my favorite means of collection was to get another bigger guy. We'd go in the house and I would have a torch of MAP gas going and either a bottle of kerosene or lighter fluid or whatever. And I would just start hosing down the house with kerosene. And because not a lot of people are afraid of a 115-pound tweaker, but turns out most people are afraid of burning to death. So, and one time, and it wasn't even a big debt. I don't even remember the amount, less than $500. The guy didn't have anything worth taking and he didn't have the money, and I lit his house on fire. Thank God everybody got out. But I destroyed all of that man's memories, everything that he had. It was a complete loss. So yeah, I've done some horrible things, and they really started with this beautiful woman that had brought me into her life. So now we're both using hard. We lose our house. We lose our son. My sister adopts him. Like, we lost everything. We're homeless. We're living in our truck. I'm doing things that I used to fuck people up for. You know, I'm putting my hands on my lady. I was violent around my stepchildren. I'm just doing horrible things that, you know, I couldn't even look in a mirror anymore. Couldn't stand myself anymore. I didn't even like walking by windows to glance and look at myself. I had allowed myself and all of my defects of character to just explode onto the world because of my anger and my fear of everything. So let's see, I'm mid-30s now. Try to move away from my problems. Well, I'm about 34. Try to move away from my problems and go out to Vernal, Utah. Actually, I was 33 when I got out there. So go out to Vernal. Once again, I get sober, white knuckling it. I have my own business. I'm teaching gospel principles in church. I'm just out there killing it. Like, and once again, I think I got this. You know, I can have a beer or two, you know, and I did for damn near a year. I did, well, shit, I was so straight sober for about a year, and then I started having the beer or two. But then one day came that I had 3 or 4, and as soon as I had that buzz, I was at the liquor store, and within 2 weeks, I was doing dope runs from Ogden to Vernal. So, and that's just how quick it is for me. I never thought I was an alcoholic. until I realized that pretty much every single one of my relapses had begun with a drink. So we just started spiraling out of control again, you know. The only thing that I maintained out there in Vernal was my company. But everything else in my life had gone to shit. I lost my wife. Kids don't talk to me. My father-in-law's got a protective order on me. My stepkids got a protective order on me. Everything had gone to shit. My parents don't want to see me or talk to me. Getting locked up and arrested again, you know, possessions and paraphernalias and domestic assaults and aggravated assault. And it's horrible. So I'm in Uintah County Jail. And I finally looked in a mirror for the first time in a long time. And I was like, look, man, something has got to change. I'm too chicken shit to pull the trigger and kill myself. And I'm too scared to live like this anymore. I don't want to live like this. So I did my time. I got out and I got my ass into Valley Camp. It's a beautiful place up in Liberty, Utah. It's a 12-step program. I never thought in my life, out of all, because I've done every court-ordered program imaginable, I never thought I would have found my answers in the 12 steps. But I got up to camp and I got honest with myself and honest with others for the very first time in probably my entire adult life. Sometimes I think too honest. Like my wife would ask me questions like, did you really sleep with that bitch? Yes, I did. And then I'm like, oh, did that? I thought I was going to take that shit to the grave. But no, you have to get brutally honest with yourself. I worked those steps like my life depends on it, because it did. Because at the end there, it was a roller coaster of heroin and methamphetamines, over and over and over again. I was 113 pounds when I went into jail. I had to spend 2 weeks in the detox and the medical before I could even get back to a pod. It was ugly. So yeah, I got to Valley Camp, and thank God for that place, man. Thank God for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I never thought I'd become one of them AA bobbleheads, but now I'm in meetings like, yep, I completely understand. Fucking A, yeah, I feel that, bro. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life because it made me understand that I am mentally and physically different from people who can just drink regularly. I have an allergic reaction whenever I get inebriated in any way, shape, or form. As soon as I get a buzz, I have to have more, and I will do whatever it takes to get more. But through working the 12 steps, I was able to realize that all that aggression and anger and violence was all fear-based. Everything came out of fear of failure, fear of success, just fear of everything. I came off as this crazy, violent person because I couldn't let people see the man that I really was. I worked a thorough 4-step. I laid everything out on my 5th step. I made my amends as I was directed to whenever I got the opportunity, except to my family. As soon as I got out of camp, I was like, I know you've heard me say I'm sorry a million times, so I want to let you know that I'm going to make these amends to you, but I want some more recovery under my belt before I do this. And so I waited until I was just over a year sober to make my amends to my mom and dad and sisters. It's a beautiful thing now. I am part of a wonderful organization, SJS. Work those steps and turn around and give it back to somebody else. I sponsor people. I live this recovery lifestyle because it is a lifestyle, and it's a beautiful lifestyle. I've got my wife back. I've got my kids back. I've got the father-in-law that had a protective order on me. We're now his power of attorney. It's a beautiful thing, and I owe everything to God and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Absolutely, 100%. I believe God led me to Valley Camp to lead me back to God. As a matter of fact, the day after I got out of rehab, I hadn't seen my wife in over a year. And I run into her on 27th in Washington. Last time I seen her, she was in Vernal, all fucked up, and so was I. I almost ran her over with a truck, for hell's sakes. Um, it, you know, and then I see her as soon as I get out, and she's going into Tranquility House the next day. And so I was like, you know what? We're still married, and I'm about this recovery life now. I will support you while you're in there, but if you're not about this when we get out, you know, I'm sorry, but you got to go. My recovery absolutely 100% comes first. It comes before my children. It comes before my wife. It only comes second to God, and because I only have this recovery because of God. And my recovery date is December 8th of 2018. So I'll be, Lord willing, I'll be hitting 4 years here in a couple of months, you know? And I used hard for 26 years of my life. I forgot to mention, my parents own a large fertilizing and weed control company in northern Utah. So most of the time when I got my dope when I was younger, it was because I was licensed to buy and apply pesticides and chemicals. So I would buy red phosphorus and anhydrous ammonia and take it out to the cooks. And so when I say I went hard, it was ugly and it was rough. Yeah, I was dealing with a lot of shady people, and that's why I felt like I had to be that violent guy. I felt like I had to put on that persona because I wasn't going to let myself look weak and be taken advantage of in that. And I don't have to live that way these days. I get to love people. I get to love everybody, whether they're using or not, whether, you know, and it's beautiful. I get to be me for the first time in my life, and I actually like me today. I can look at myself in the mirror every day now and say, you know what? You did good today. And on the days when I don't do so good, I get to use those principles of Alcoholics Anonymous and go back and say, hey, look, man, I apologize. I messed up. How can I correct this situation with you? Like, what do I need to do to make this work? So if you're questioning whether you want to get sober, you probably do. If you're questioning whether you can, I know you absolutely can because I did it. Find a meeting, find a therapist, find whatever works for you and hold on to it for your life, because this disease of alcoholism and addiction wants to fucking kill us. Thank you for your time. That's about all I got.